Hello everyone, this is our third video on recurrent neural networks. Now we are going to see how recurrent neural networks actually work. Uh, to illustrate that, let's have a look at how a basic traditional neural network looks like. You can see a traditional neural network has the set of input neurons, which is an input layer. You have a set of hidden neurons, which is in the hidden layer, and then you have the output layer, which has got output neurons in it. The set of weights that connect the input and hidden layers are being marked here as WINP. The set of weights that connect the hidden to the output neurons are marked as WOUT. And then you have the set of outputs being labeled as Y1 cap and Y2 cap, and the input vector as a set of inputs X1, X2, and X3. So now you see, if you turn this network around and say rotate it and view it from the side, it appears that the entire stack of neurons are kind of stacked one behind the other. So you get only one visible input neuron representing the input layer, and only one hidden neuron representing the hidden layer, and one output neuron representing the output layer. So please remember that these are not single neurons, these are set of neurons stacked one behind the other. So that is why you get a vector of inputs being fed here, and then you have a set of weights which are going from each hidden neuron to the next, each input neuron to the hidden neuron, and then you have the set of weights from uh, hidden to the output neurons. All right. So to visualize this a little bit better, we replace all that uh, maze of lines with a single line here. So now what it appears is you have a set of input vectors which is going to the input layer. Then a set of weights connect the input and the hidden layer. And then another set of weights connect the hidden and the output layer. And if you rotate this like this, you will get the representation of RNN without the feedback. So now we add one extra layer of feedback and we come up with the most common uh, representation of RNN. So this is how typically an RNN will look like. So please remember that we are not looking at a single neuron in any of these cases. We are looking at a stack of neurons, one behind the other. But for ease of representation, we represent it like this. So the inputs go here. That's hidden layer. There's a feedback, which is characteristics of a RNN. Then there is an output, which gives you the actual output. So if you unroll that whole thing, you come up with a representation which looks like this. So if your sequence has a length of t and your output has got also a sequence of length t, then you can unroll this network. If you remember, we had a feedback loop which was coming in. You unroll that feedback loop, what you get is the feedback going from the previous time step to the next time step. At each time instant, you have the input, you have the previous hidden layer activation functions forming the hidden layer inputs, and then the output of the hidden layer of this neuron goes into the output neuron, and then you have the tanh function or the softmax function depending on whatever you have to generate. So that's how this network works. And I will repeat again, these are not different networks, these are the same network at different instants of time. And H1, H2, H3 represent the output of the activation of the hidden layer, which is being passed on as input to the succeeding time instant. So I can represent it like this again. This is what we had seen earlier also. So I'm just representing it once again, saying that all these are represented by a single weight vector Wn. All these weights that are connecting are represented by W hidden, and all the set of weights are represented by W out. Please remember one very important thing. For the entire length of sequence that we are inputting, these matrices do not change. Only when the length of the sequence, the complete sequence is over, do we start calculating the error. And then backpropagation happens, and then these matrices change. So for one complete input sequence from x1 to xt, these matrices will not undergo a change. Only when the backpropagation happens completely from xt to x1, you will have the weights changing, and finally you will come up with again one single set of weights. And this is how a typical forward pass of an RNN will look like. So you can see the hidden layer output is represented typically using an activation function which is tanh, which is W hidden, which is the hidden layer weight vector, into the previous hidden layer output plus input layer into input sequence plus the bias term for the hidden layer of this particular term. This is for the first case. Second case also same thing will happen, and so on. Instead of tanh, we can also use ReLU or whichever activation function you are okay with. The output of the uh, function that you will be seeing, the output of the output layer, so as to say, is output vector into the activation functions, that is the output of the activation or the output of the hidden layer plus the bias term. And once the output is available to us, we carry out the softmax or the sigmoid activation function is passed to it, and then you get the estimated output y hat of. And once the entire set of sequences has been passed, you can calculate the loss for every output, and then that is used for backpropagation. What I'm doing is I'm going to give you the backpropagation of errors through time as an assignment. You can do this because it's been done in a variety of ways by variety of authors. It is very well understood and is available on the internet. I will give you some resources which you can go through to do this. So that's an assignment. And the algorithm that we use for training this kind of a network is typically the backpropagation through time algorithm. It's an algorithm which came about in 1990s, kind of a little bit old, but still it is considered to be one of the best algorithms to train can train networks which actually work on sequences, right? So you can refer to this paper as the base paper for learning what is backpropagation through time. Okay, and how backpropagation through time works is in this way. What we do is we take a sequence of time steps, that is you have x1 x2 x3 up to xt, and you have the corresponding outputs. You unroll this network just like what we did in the previous cases, calculate the error for each of the time steps, and then once all the errors across all the time steps are available, accumulate the errors and then update the weights once again and repeat the whole process over and over again till the gradient drops to 0. Unfortunately, the problem is that the more the number of uh, steps in the sequence, the more expensive this algorithm becomes, because you have that many number of hidden states to calculate, or that many number of back layers you have to go back. For example, if I go back here, you can see you have t number of hidden states, and you have to start from here and go back all the way up to h0 with the chain rule of differentiation to calculate the gradient and then update the weight. So if this t is a very large number, you will have to go step by step that many number of times till you reach the first neuron, and then only you can calculate the updated weight matrices for WO, WH, and W input. So that is why this algorithm becomes slightly cumbersome when you have a very large sequence. Unfortunately, this also brings its own problems, which is that of vanishing gradient or exploding gradient. You will understand the concept of vanishing gradient as the case when you have a system or a sequence which is so long that the first step is very far away from the current step. That means if you are having a input as say a sentence, and if the sentence is say 300 words long, So by the time you input the 300th word, the network may have forgotten what is the first word that you had input. So that is the idea of vanishing gradient. That means if you try to teach the network very, very long sequences, the network learns the very old terms in the sequence very poorly, because the gradient or minimizes to such a small extent that you do not see any change in the output so far in the back in the time. So that is the idea of vanishing gradient, and this is not very easy to detect because they will still be appearing as if the network is trying to learn, but it will get stuck in some kind of a minima and it will not move further. So you will have a situation where the network does not learn patterns which are very old in. So how do you deal with such a situation? What you can do is you can do this by properly initializing the weight matrices or using regularization so that this vanishing gradient does not happen. Third option is to use ReLU instead of TANH or sigmoid activation functions, or the most common use is to employ something called long short-term memory models or gated recurrent units. Because of this major problem of vanishing gradient, we typically tend to go with LSTM or GRU architectures instead of traditional RNN architectures. The other option or the other side of the uh, backpropagation through time learning for conventional RNNs is that of an exploding gradient. Exploding gradient is a situation when you have your weight matrices taking values which are very, very huge, which basically means their gradient values become so large that the uh, system is typically not able to handle such large numbers. So this is easy to detect because it will show up as not a number, NaN, in most of the matrices. And the system will automatically stop because it cannot compute these large numbers. So the easiest way of dealing with exploding gradients is simply to do something called gradient clipping, which means that you, at the time of writing the model itself, you make sure that the parameters don't go beyond a particular limit. For example, you limit all the values between -10 and +10. So that actually stops exploding gradient problem. It's very easy to stop this exploding gradient. Unfortunately, it is not so easy with vanishing gradients. So that is the idea behind this. And one way of minimizing the vanishing and exploding gradient problem, other than regularization and other than using different activation functions, is to use something called truncated backpropagation through time. In this case, what happens is you create small batches of the input sequence, feed them to the network, calculate the errors for that, and then feed the next set of sequences. So it's like you are creating batches over time to feed the inputs. So that's how the system is able to understand that there is gradient is dropping or gradient is exploding, and it becomes a lot more easier. So typically you will find the truncated backpropagation through time algorithm be more commonly used rather than the traditional backpropagation through time, even in case of LSTM and GRU type networks. These are the major references. We will be looking at LSTM and GRU type networks in the next few videos. Meanwhile, please feel free to have a look at all of these references. I will be sharing the PPT also. So if you have any doubts, you are free to ask me on the comments. Thank you very much.